As you close out the year, you should also celebrate your team's successes. You've accomplished a ton this year, and for that, you should celebrate. How will your team celebrate? A virtual team happy hour, a team lunch, gift cards and a day off? Whatever it is, ensure that you are explicit in thanking them for their hard work.
Welcome to You Belong in the C-Suite podcast. You are ambitious in life and in your career, but something is missing. You want to bring more of your passion to what you do. Because let's be honest, you pour a ton into your work, and it needs to mean more. I'm your host, Laura Eigel. I'm a mom, wife, PhD, coach, advocate, introvert, and indoor rowing fanatic. I'm passionate about living a life that's in line with my values. We'll give you the actionable tips and tools you need to lead with your values, make a difference, and have career success. The world needs more diversity and authenticity in the top jobs at organizations. Your leadership belongs there. You belong in the C-Suite. What gets you up in the morning? What drives your decisions? What do you stand for? No idea, not even sure where to start? I use my values to guide my life and career. It's the basis of how I've built boundaries for myself and stuck to them. Are you ready to dig into what matters to you? Go to thecatchgroup.com to download your free values worksheet. That's thecatchgroup.com to download your free values worksheet to get to your core values and take action on what matters most. Welcome to the You Belong in the C-Suite podcast. It is almost the end of the year. What? This pandemic time warp thing is real. How is it December already? Who knows? But here we are. As you end the year, it's a really great time for reflection. At work, as part of your performance management process or your performance evaluation, you may even need to formally submit year-end comments on the outcomes of your yearly goals. You may love this time of year to do that, to think through everything you and your team have accomplished. Or some may hate this time of year because they didn't get as much done as they set out to. Today, I'm going to talk about how to reflect on your year in review, personally and professionally. Let's start with professionally. As part of your performance management process, you probably made some SMART goals at the beginning of the year that are tied to your annual operating plan for you and your team. You may have provided a mid-year assessment of everything, but you may not have looked at that progress since then. That's a real thing. Those last 2 quarters of the year seem to go by faster than the first 2 for some reason. We are going to talk about how to truly capture your impact in those end-of-year comments that you need to turn in. If you don't have to do this as part of an HR process, then you still probably should have an end-of-year conversation with your manager and with your team members. Either way, let's talk about how to set up those conversations for success. First, let's talk about your own performance. What did you accomplish this year towards your goals? Now remember, I have an HR background and I have reviewed many year-end comments. I am going to share some of the most common mistakes that I see leaders make as they write their personal and professional overall comments. The first one that I'll share, writing too much about the process and not about the outcomes. So instead of writing about the process, like, hey, I held 3 strategic meetings with cross-functional partners to get to the strategy, I want to hear about the outcome. What was the outcome of that? Did you build and execute a new strategy? So instead, start with the end in mind. Start with highlighting the outcome of it and less about all of the details and the minutia of the work that it took to get to the outcome. You can elaborate that after the headline, but what was the impactful business outcome of your work? How did it change the business? How many people did it impact? What is different now than it was before? Lead with the outcome first. The second mistake I see leaders make is putting in a laundry list of everything in their job description. I do not want to know about everything that you did. As your manager, I know what your job is. What I want to know is, what were your biggest impacts to the team and to the organization? I want to know what you think those are. I want to know what you are most proud of.
Tell me about that and why. The third mistake that I see leaders make is forgetting about the big accomplishments from the beginning of the year. Remember, this is not just about recent stuff. Go back to the beginning of the year. If you had a huge win in January, that counts here too. Also, if you transition to a new role, don't forget to tell me about how you set your successor up for success in their new role. And if you started a new role, don't forget to tell me about how you rocked your onboarding. All of those things count here. The next mistake I see often are minimizing your impact with passive verbs. So you are great at what you do, and you're most likely part of your team, part of a bigger team. Tell me about what you specifically did though, not just the team. And I will tell you that I see this so much as women recap their work. Many women downplay their work. This is the time of year where you are literally asked to write about your accomplishments. So tell me about these and don't hide your own contributions within the teams. Specifically, what did you do to impact results? Many people minimize their efforts because they want to be seen as team players. You can do both here. And also, don't use passive verbs with everything in terms of I led this or I managed that. Instead, did you create something? Say that. Say that you created it. Did you fail, learn, and grow? Tell me about that. Don't minimize your accomplishments here or hide it within the team's accomplishments. The next mistake I see people make is very connected to the last one. So you're most likely a leader. I want you to not only tell me what you did, but also your whole team. If you're a leader of a team or a department, that is literally your job. You get results through leading others. Do not forget to talk about your holistic team results. You have broad team goals and you lead your team through that. Talk about that strategy and what you specifically did to impact the organization's goals through the leadership of multiple levels in the organization. Talk about your leadership style here. It isn't just about the end result. Of course that counts, but it's about how you achieve the results through your authentic leadership. How did that show up here? The next mistake I see leaders make is not talking about their personal growth. How did you grow as a leader? What are you doing differently? And don't just talk about the leadership class that you took. Tell me about the application of it. What did you do? How did it impact your team? How did it benefit the organization? The last thing I see leaders forget to do, and this is a big mistake, they forget to celebrate. Celebrate their accomplishments. For me, sometimes this is just sitting back and looking through this list of things that I've accomplished and saying, wow, look at all of this. I'm so proud of this. And just reflecting on that. So as you think about your accomplishments, I want you to write those out. You might have to literally put these in an HR system to capture it, or you might just put it on a Word document or whatever you want to do. But ensure that you have written it down. And then I want you to communicate it. I want you to communicate it to your manager. And I want to communicate it to your team through different ways. So let's talk about how you can communicate that. First, to communicate it with your manager, please ensure that you set up a year-end conversation. Again, this is probably part of your formal performance management or performance evaluation process, having an actual conversation and a meeting. If you work for a company that doesn't have a formal process, then set up a year-end review in January with your manager to talk about your 2021 results. You don't have to wait for your manager to put it on your calendar. You can put it on theirs. Before that meeting, send your manager a highlight of your accomplishments for the year. What you're most proud of, the most impactful things you and your team have done. Tell them about what you learned and what you're most excited about in the year to come in that meeting, and then ask for their feedback. Here are a couple of things that you might talk about. What worked well? What should you stop doing? What should you continue doing? What should you start doing new? Come prepared with your thoughts on all of those questions. And guess what? As a leader, you'll need to have the exact same conversations with your team members individually. Schedule end-of-year conversations with them. Tell them what you'd like to talk about and what you need in advance to ensure that you have a productive conversation. Be ready to talk to them about their performance. Go back and listen to episode number 16 of this podcast called Feedback is a Gift to get tips on giving and receiving feedback. That's a great one to listen to because in your year-end meeting, you should be talking about feedback. You should be giving feedback. You should be ready to receive feedback. As you close out the year, you should also celebrate your team's successes. You've accomplished a ton this year, and for that, you should celebrate. How will your team celebrate? A virtual team happy hour, a team lunch, gift cards and a day off? Whatever it is, ensure that you are explicit in thanking them for their hard work and recap the team accomplishments. Celebrate together. How will you celebrate? I'd love for you to use this time of year as a point of reflection for you personally. If you know me, you know what I'm about to ask you. Are you living your values? Yep, there's that question again. Are you really living and leading in a way that matters most to you? Review episode number 13, Intentional Self-Reflection, to learn how I do intentional self-reflection on my values every 90 days. As a summary, I check in with my values. What are they? Are those still the things that matter most to me right now, or have those changed? Am I really living them? Am I spending time in ways that matter? Then I celebrate or recalibrate. I celebrate what's working and recalibrate what's not. Use this time of year to show up as a leader authentically, to celebrate everything that you and your team have accomplished, and to check in on your values. Remember, your leadership belongs here. You belong in the C-suite.
I want to thank you so much for listening to the You Belong in the C-Suite podcast. If you are enjoying this content, please remember to rate and review on Apple Podcasts. By leaving a review, you are helping others find this content. We will be featuring 5-star reviews on air in upcoming episodes. Editing and support for the podcast is done by S&E Podcast Management. To get more tips and tools to help you live a life guided by your values, go to thecatchgroup.com. Keep your boundaries and take care.